And I feel even with spirit guides, and people may be familiar with this, like you have people that are guiding you through life, but animals are also really cross connected and guiding you and helping you as well. And I feel like with spirit guides, they come in at different stages of life. And you may be when you're young, you may have an imaginary friend that you're very strongly connected to. And then as you mature, you kind of feel like you don't, that bridge of connection is kind of like gone, but they've always been there. And then you may become aware of a new guide. And it's the same with spirit totem animals. And I feel like depending on what you're going through in life, what you're facing, the challenges you may face, the struggles you may have, then there may be particular medicines that animals are offering you to kind of like help align with you, to strengthen your journey, that you can call upon to work with.
Shawn Leonard, welcome back. Welcome back to Fear Unzipped. Oh, people just loved our first conversation, as did I. And I am so excited. I wanted you back because this book just launched, your newest book called Walking with Your Spirit Totem Animals. It's discovering the 4 animals that guide you through life. This speaks to me so much because anybody who knows me knows how animals impact me emotionally, physically, always. But I thought, I also want to introduce you that you are an Mi'kmaq Indigenous psychic medium. You live in Nova Scotia, Canada. You have a TV show. You have books. These books were released by Hay House. But I wanted, for people who might not have listened to the first episode with you, that if you could give a little background about yourself and how you became a psychic medium. But before Shawn, I do want to read this quote because I think it's powerful. It's from your book. To see your totem is not just to observe an animal, it's to feel the whisper of your own soul's language. I get chills when I read that because I believe that to be so true. Shawn, welcome.
Thank you. Thank you for having me on, Sandy. It's nice to be back again. And I have a new book out, came out on October 21st from Hay House Publishing. And for those people that don't know me, I mean, I've been doing this work for over 25 years. I am Mi'kmaq from Nova Scotia, Canada. I'm a spirit talker, but you may know that as a psychic medium. But in my culture, we say spirit talkers. Mm-hmm. And, throughout my whole life, I would say it's been this unfoldment. Hence, when I wrote my first book, Spirit Talker, which is also published by Hay House Publishing, that, it's been a series of events that kind of led me to this journey and this path. And many, very integral moments. And I'd say, there's not a moment even today that there's not an integral, aspect of the puzzle that's still falling into place in different ways. But, I've had many life-changing moments. Growing up as a young boy, I was very connected to the spirit world and had encounters with spirit. But I just thought I was like everyone else, and I never thought that I was going to be, someday I'm going to be a psychic medium or spirit talker. And anyhow, spirit always has a path for us that sometimes unfolds, and it's up to us whether or not we embrace it or not. And so I kind of embraced it. But there was a big moment when my dad passed when I was 15 years old, and he passed from a massive heart attack. And it was a year later that we had a visitation with him, or I did, from the spirit world. I was sleeping downstairs in my mom's basement on the couch. And then one night around 3:00 in the morning, about a year after he passed on October 16th, 1987, when he passed, but it was, let's say 1988 in the fall sometime, I woke up on the couch and I saw this ball of beautiful, bright, unconditional loving light that was in the room. And when I saw this light, I didn't know what it was. I stepped up off the couch. I could still see myself sleeping on the couch, which is kind of neat because I used to have many moments like that when I was a young boy where I'd astral travel. So this was kind of like an astral travel experience. But what happened was I was still in the space of my mom's basement, standing there, and this light grew and grew and grew. And then out walked my father. And my dad, he passed at 42 years old. His name was James. Mm. And his anniversary just passed the other day, actually. And, so when he walked out of this light, the first thing that caught my attention was, one, the light, of course. because that's like amazing. It's like when you see that light, it's just like, oh my God, that's home. I would have dropped everything in a second and ran there and left this world if I could have. Although my dad said, no, you're not coming. You're meant to stay here. There's a purpose for you being here. And he said, long before you or I were born, we had a plan. And you have a purpose for being here. And our plan together was I was to be with your life up to this point, but I was always the one that was meant to show you the light, our home, the other side, the spirit world. And he says, I can't let you go in there, but I've come to you with a few messages. Tell your mom I'm okay. Tell your brother I'm okay. And I became so fixated on the light, I didn't care what my dad said. It just was like literally, I could have ran past him and like, oh my God, I love you, Dad. Nice to see you, but I'm going home. And he kept getting him away. And then he showed me two visions. One of them being a vision of me being with my mom and seeing what would happen to her if I were to leave this world at 16 at the time. And it would be pure devastation for her in life. And she would suffer enormously, not only with the loss of my father, but the loss of me, her oldest son. And it would be about 7 more years that she would struggle through grief. And then he showed me what it looked like for my brother, and he would also struggle with grief, because of my loss and Dad's loss. But I ultimately, even despite what my dad showed me, I was still willing to go. And the reason is because I was trying to use logic with my dad. Well, Dad, no matter what happens to mom, no matter how much suffering she goes through, we're all going to be together again anyway. She'll come over here, it'll be fine. All the stuff that she struggled through will kind of dissipate and she'll be with us again, right? And he says, no. And he says, you don't know this, but part of this reason I was meant to show you the light, he says, you're going to be serving people one day. And I'm like, serving people? And he goes, yeah, you're going to be helping people understand the connection to where we are in the spirit world and reconnecting for people here. And I didn't know what that meant because I'm 16, literally at that age, all I thought about was guitars and girls and getting a job. And that was it. He touched me in the forehead. I woke up and I remember what my dad said. I told my mom thinking that she'd be super happy that I connected to Dad, but she was really kind of pissed off because, she was mad because he came to me and not her. But I was at a different place of my grief than she was. I was at a different space in my grief than she was. And that's okay. We all have our journey and not everybody is meant to be, you're not meant to heal in a year. And some people, it takes years to overcome the loss of somebody and move on with life, which my mom did and eventually married another fellow, but named Larry, and had an amazing life with him.
Yeah.
So that was her purpose too. But here I am, I'm still kind of like plugging along. Again, all the synchronicities of my life to help me to share, because I don't think experiences are meant for me alone. And I would say that to everyone, the experiences that you have aren't meant for you alone. The Creator didn't give you these experiences just to awaken you, but to awaken humanity and to share what your experiences and such, and help motivate, inspire, enlighten people in some way so they can walk through life in a better way themselves. And that's the unfoldment that has happened to me. And with all the different stories that brought me to this place, in my new book. And I remember when the book came out, which is good because it was a bestseller in Canada. It was number 2 for a week on the bestsellers list, which was amazing. Spirit Talker. And, after, they sold out of books pretty much, so they couldn't get any. So Hayos quickly called me very shortly after that and said, well, have you thought about...
This is Spirit Talker. It's wonderful. Must read this book. And
they said, well, have you had any thoughts about any other books? And they said, write down 5 to 6 thoughts or ideas, what you would like to write about, and submit them to us, and we'll go over them with you. So I submitted some ideas, and one of them was about spirit totem animals. And kind of the reason why that kind of I feel like they like that one, because I put another one at the top of my list. And I said, I really want to write this. And they go, yeah, we know you really want to write this, but we want this. And they said, listen, we like both ideas. We'll sign a contract for both books. So you write this one and we'll sign you for the other one right away. I'm like, amazing. So I'm like, let me think about that. Yeah, I can do that. So I wrote the book, and I remember it was Patty Gift, that is like one of the CEOs of Hay House, and she's above me in relation to contracts and things like this. So I told her a story, and the story is what kind of intrigued her. Again, I knew the story when we first met before I wrote Spirit Talker. She asked me about some of my things that I could write about and such like this. And I even wrote this story within Spirit Talker book, but it was about where a totem animal had connected to me. Mm-hmm. And I was explaining in Indigenous culture, we're connected to the animal nation, and that this was a unique thing that just happened not too long ago. And I received validation that this animal was with me in life. So the story was about a polar bear. And the polar bear, which I would never thought would have been my totem animals, although I was fascinated by them as I was a young boy, and I remember how massive they were. I was like researching them in books and stuff. And so I was intrigued by polar bears. But in Nova Scotia, in Canada, even though it snows here like 5 or 6 times a year, it's not cold enough for polar bears. And we hardly have any ice to even skate. I mean, when I was young here, I used to like snowmobile, had snowshoes and skis and the whole 9 yards. But, today, with the weather and everything is kind of shifting and changing somewhat. Now, I wouldn't be able to have any of those things. But so anyway, in the dream, this great massive bear had appeared to me, and it was a very kind of unique way that it appeared to me, because I was in the dream, I was in this massive field, and for whatever reason, in this field, there was like 7 shadows that I knew were people that were coming after me. And I ran from them because I didn't know who these shadows were, and I didn't know what they were there for, why they were trying to do me any type of harm. So I ran for my dear little life in my dream. And I'm running across the field as fast as I can. And as I get to about the middle or a little bit past the middle of the field, I see 7 polar bears come out the other side of the forest. And I thought, well, that's odd. Polar bears shouldn't even be in the forest in the first place, but yet here they are. And they start running towards me too. And I'm like, oh God, not only do I have to outrun 7 shadows of people that are doing to do me harm, now there's 7 polar bears that are after me. And so I start running towards the shadows, which turned around, were running the other way too. And I ran for my dear life again, even faster than I could from the other people. And I realized I couldn't outrun the polar bears. And what happened is I had to surrender. In the dream, I was like, I surrendered to the idea that the polar bears were going to eat me, and I just had to accept it, and there was nothing I could do. But that's not what happened. I got down on my knees, and all 7 polar bears ran past me. And they not only did they run past me, all the shadows that were in the field, they would kind of pounce on. Each polar bear would pounce on a shadow, and they would disintegrate. And then they turned around and they looked at me, and then they kind of merged into one great bear and just stared at me like he was imparting wisdom to me. And I'm like, and then I woke up. I thought, oh my God, the polar bear wasn't there to do me harm. The polar bear wasn't there to hurt me in any way. The polar bear was there to protect me, to keep me safe. And then I realized that the polar bear was one of my totem animals. So I really wanted validation. So even though the dream is amazing and it's like a clear indication that, polar bear medicine, I've had connections to bears my whole life, but I asked for something. I asked the polar bear. I had my own little ceremony. I made an offering. I smudged. I went out into my little forest space, and that's kind of my sacred space, is out in the trees and the woods and the forest, and it's just me and them, and I feel like at one, because there's no place that the creator is not. And so I have my ceremony. I speak to the great white bear, back Moy in Mi'kmaq, and I say, great bear, we're great white bear. I invite you to validate that you are walking with me in life and that you are protecting me as a power totem animal. And I'm asking you to send me something very distinct. Could you send me a polar bear claw? Yeah. I don't know how you're going to give it to me or get it to me, but I'm requesting that you do this. And so anyhow, months had gone by. And I didn't get the claw like, right away. It took some time. But what happened was I got a little package in the mail, and it was from a lady named Barbara Kent Bishop. And she lives in Newfoundland, which is a province, like a state of Canada. And it's more remote, and it's an island. So she sends me this little letter and a little package, and she says, Shawn, I was just in northern Labrador, which is quite cold. And when I was there, I met with an Inuk elder, and I had a ceremony with him, and he gifted me 2 polar bear claws. And he said, Barbara, this one is for you, but this other claw is meant to be gifted to someone else. And you'll know who this is supposed to go to. Now, I didn't tell anybody about my dream. So anyway, I open up the package, and it's the polar bear claw. Yeah. And I wear it every day. I wear it closest to my heart, and I know it's medicine that I'm meant to carry. And when you carry in a medicine, it's not a trophy. It's like my spirit and the spirit of this great animal are connected. Mm-hmm. And we, as I learn through life and grow through life, sometimes I may need that medicine to kind of help me through different situations. But it gets really cooler than just a polar bear claw showing up, because, what's the odds of that happening, right? Especially where there's no polar bears around me, and I never told anybody anything. Shortly after that, another lady comes to my house, and she has a little gift for me. Her name's Larry Curdo, and she has she does part-time taxidermy here in Nova Scotia, and she's Mi'kmaq as well. And she says, well, Shawn, when she came to my house with a bunch of ladies, we were having lunch one day, and she goes, I was just working on a polar bear rug the other day, Shawn. I thought you'd be interested. And, there's a little piece left over that I have, and I'm thinking that I should offer it to you. And you can wrap, and I told her about the claw then, and she goes, well, maybe you should wrap your claw in it, or use it for your smudge bowl or something. So I got a second part of a polar bear. Shortly after that, someone messages me. I know, it's just like everything just aligns, right? It's just amazing. Shortly after that, another person messages me in an email and says, me and my mom really could use a session. And we know that you don't do them personally anymore. But, I have this old polar bear rug in my closet that was my grandfather's, and we don't know what to do with it. We're thinking if I offered it to you, you could do a reading for us. And I'm like, well, let me think about it. I'm like, okay, I can do it. And so I made an exception. And then shortly after that, over there, you can see in my lower side over there, the little red bag, is another polar bear claw somebody gifted me. And then recently I went to New York, and I did something at the Omega Institute, which I'm going back to next year. And this lady gifted me an indigenous mask and the hair is polar bear fur.
Oh my. So now you have 6?
Well, there's one more. And I'm going to tell you this, I saved the best for last. So this other lady messaged me while I was writing my book, Walking with Spirit Totem Animals, right? So I'm writing my book and thinking about putting it into the world and talking about, different types of spirit totem animals, etc. And this lady named Kelly Finnegan and her husband, Steve, messaged me and said, Shawn, we'd love to meet you for coffee. In Canada, we have a coffee place called Tim Hortons. Would you like to meet us at Tim's? We're up from Truro, and, we have something to give to you, perhaps. I'm like, okay, I'd love to meet you for coffee. It was like near New Year's. It was near Christmas and New Year's, around that time. And I was finishing my book, and I said, okay, I'll come in and meet you. And they tell me that Steve's father had passed away. And, he used to live in the Northwest Territories, northern Canada. And he was given a polar bear rug by an Inuk person because he traded it for a sled. Because the Inuk person needed a sled, but he had this pristine rug, and he received this gift 50 years ago. And he says, we don't know what to do with it because it's too large. And, this was a gift of his. And we thought that we would offer it to you. Now, the rug that they offered has its whole head, it's all of his claws, it's the full body of the animal. So I'll just show you. So they gifted it to me. And if you look at my pool
Oh
table,
my goodness. Oh my
that,
goodness.
that is the full rug of the polar bear. Now, I have now 6 parts of different bears that have come to me since that ceremony that day. And that's amazing. And you know what? The really cool part is, that's massive. My pool table is 10 feet long and it's bigger than my pool table. I can't put it anywhere else because I don't want to stuff it in a closet because it's, I can't work with the medicine. So I often come down here. This is my office. So I sit with this great bear. I speak to it. I put my hand on his head. And then sometimes I just sit there and stare into his eyes and we have these little conversations. But the day I had my dream, where those 7 polar bears merged into one great bear, it was that bear. I recognize him. And I feel like, these, the 7 different parts that I have received, it's amazing. And I feel like all those 7 polar bears in my dream that merged into one great bear, that is the one great bear. But I feel like they all knew who I was before I knew who they were. And they're looking for ways to gift me parts of themselves.
Oh God, this is so beautiful. This is, Shawn, my heart. It's just, when I saw that polar bear, I too, my whole body went in chills. I could feel the medicine. I mean, it's incredible. I think it's important to address the difference of this kind of medicine in people that just go out and, will kill an animal. Yes. And carry an emblem, of their kill. Can you please explain the difference? It's obvious what the difference is, but I want to hear it in your words.
Nobody's eating polar bears in Canada. It's not something, it's not a delicacy that people are going to harvest or hunt. They're actually endangered and protected. But sometimes a bear is in a community that, poses a danger to the community itself. And sometimes they have to be humanely put down. And sometimes the bears are injured. Mm-hmm. And so instead of just throwing the carcass away of these great bears, especially to the Inuk people, Indigenous people, take, the remains of animals and utilize them. It's been part of our culture forever. And same with the Inuk people. So we would use this. So now if I was to have a ceremony in a teepee or a wigwam, I would take that rug and place as the floor. And we all sit upon it where we could share stories and teachings or medicine, etc., like spiritual medicine and even, sacred ceremonial medicine in some way. But that medicine of the bear would kind of provide the base of the grounding for all that. So we're honoring the bear. We're honoring the bear, including it in our ceremony. And I've not hurt any of these animals in any way for a trophy. And all the people that have gifted me them know also the stories behind, which happened to the animals. And unfortunately, some of them were sick. Some of them were injured. Some of them were in the wrong place, posing a danger to people. So it's just, they had to make a decision in that regard. I've also, my name is White Eagle Spirit Talker. And eagle medicine has been coming to me my whole life. I was gifted a whole wing by an elder. And we have what we call a wildlife park here in Nova Scotia. And what happens at the wildlife park is if there's an eagle that gets injured or let's say lands on a power line and gets electrocuted and they find the remains, it's given to the wildlife park. And then the people at the wildlife park offer it to the Indigenous people here, the communities, because it's part of our ceremonies, it's part of our celebrations, etc. So if you ever see like a powwow or what we call a Maui-Omi, which is a gathering of people where you see song and dance and ceremony, etc., that they may be wearing all the eagle feathers. And it's to embody, the connection between us and the animal. And, and actually this is something that's been going on all over the world. It's just since colonization of like modern times, let's say, that we've kind of lost that philosophy and thought somewhat, although I do feel Christianity has it a bit, because if you really think about it, Christianity has angels. Mm-hmm. And, angels are a cross-cultural reference from around the world too. And what are angels? Angels are the human nation mixed with the animal nation or the bird nation, particularly because many angels have wings. So why is it that there's this blend of human nation and animal nation together to offer or be medicine for people? So we kind of like, as indigenous people around the world, I mean, the Egyptian people would have, jackal-headed, people and masks and such. They would have, the cats and lions and snakes were also very deeply connected to the culture. If you think about the Hindu people, you got the elephant-headed goddess. There's the Sami people, which are indigenous European people who are very deeply connected to the caribou. And there's a good movie people should watch. I think it's on Netflix. It's subtitled, mind you, about the Sami people on Netflix. It's called Stolen. It's a fictional story, but it's based on kind of real events. But you'll get to see the Sami people and how they are so deeply connected to the caribou, right? And the people in Europe that are Sami, they are connected to a caribou at a certain stage of their life. They take a piece of their ear and wear it with them to share the connection between the two of them. So they clip a little piece of the ear off, the ear heals, and they're a protector for that caribou for their whole life. So it's a deep connection.
I lived in Turkey when I was younger, and the cat is sacred there. And you see thousands and thousands of cats. They believe it's the spirit of, I believe, Ataturk that is in the cat. And then in India, when I was in India, the cows that roamed.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, there's so many different nations that are deeply connected to the animal nation itself in regards to spirituality and honoring these animals because they provide us life.
So why is it important, and how will it enhance us, Shawn, if we get to know our spirit totem animals?
Well, I mean, these animals have come to me. Like I never, I know my four totems. Mm-hmm. I do. And it was just recently that I've discovered my fourth totem, which is the white snowy owl. Yeah. But, these medicines will reveal themselves to you through life. And if you might already have an inkling of thinking of who your totems are. Yeah. You may know 2 or 3, not quite sure of the fourth. But what I teach in the book is that there's stages of life, because in indigenous culture, we and you may or may not have heard of this, but we have what you call the medicine wheel. Yes. And within the medicine wheel, there's a lot of teachings, but also part of the medicine wheel is the 4 stages of life, from infancy to youth to adult to elder. And depending what stage of your life you're at and what you're going through, obviously at different stages of life, you're going to have different experiences, because you're focused on an aspect of life that would be much different if you become an elder, right? Or elderly in life, you move into retirement. So there's different medicines that will come to you from when you were, but does it mean that you lose your totems? No, I feel like they still walk with you through your whole life, just like your spirit guides. And I feel even with spirit guides, and people may be familiar with this, like you have people that are guiding you through life, but animals are also really cross-connected and guiding you and helping you as well. And I feel like with spirit guides, they come in at different stages of life. And you may be when you're young, you may have an imaginary friend that you're very strongly connected to. And then as you mature, you kind of feel like that bridge of connection is kind of like gone, but they've always been there. And then you may become aware of a new guide. And it's the same with spirit totem animals. And I feel like depending on what you're going through in life, what you're facing, the challenges you may face, the struggles you may have, then there may be particular medicines that animals are offering you to kind of like help align with you, to strengthen your journey, that you can call upon to work with. And I'll give you an example, right? I didn't write about this in the book because the publisher didn't ask me to write about this, but I'll tell you the rest of the story. So when I, way back when I wrote my first book, before Spirit Talker, I self-published a book through Balboa Press called The Language of Spirit. It's no longer for sale, and it's because it's transformed into Spirit Talker, my new book with Hayos, because it was a self-published book. Hayos, when they assigned me, they wanted me to rewrite the book, add more chapters, some exercises, etc., and it became Spirit Talker. And so anyway, while I was writing the book, when I first wrote my self-published book way back, probably about, let's say, 9 years ago, I was working on it. I originally sought somebody that could help me because I've never written a book in my life. So I found this young lady who was a friend of mine. I was friend with their family, and it was a family of 7. You know, there was like 4 adult children. Was there 4 adult children? No, 5 adult children and the parents. Mm-hmm. And so anyway, I the youngest was an aspiring writer. So I said, well, how about we give it a go, you know? And so we started writing, and she was French, which is primarily her first language. And so very quickly into the writing process, I realized that I can't go this route. She's not a great writer. I have to go a different route. And so we parted ways. But it didn't end well from her perspective. So I wrote a letter. I said, you know, I'm sorry that you feel that way, but, you know, I don't think we can be friends anymore, and that's okay. You go be you, I'll go be me. And so they sent me a letter from a lawyer, and said that they were threatening to sue me, and or she was anyway, but the family was all behind her. And I said, well, let's go to court, because I mean, I didn't agree to nothing. I mean, why would I agree to anything in the first place? You wrote like a few chapters that weren't good, and I'm not going to use the work. So I hired a professional to help me write my self-published book, which I probably should have did in the first place. So I hired a professional, and I sat down, told her all my stories. She wrote them out, and, you know, and it was an amazing writer too. On top of that, her name was Rainey Hartland. And so I, you know, the book comes out, and then I get picked up by Hayos, and then Spirit Talker is ready to be, you know, published out into the world. And then I get served papers again saying they're suing me. And so there was this young lady with her 6 family members that were witness to say that, well, you know, don't you remember, you haven't been making payments to us. I'm like, payments for what? Well, we made a contract, she said, that you would give me half your income for the rest of your life. I'm like, are you serious? Like, this is ridiculous. Like, who would make any type of agreement like this? And so we had to go to court, and the judge quickly saw through it, because she even said that the work that I used in my books was word for word everything that she wrote, which is very easily to...
Exactly.
Because I have the original writings, and the judge says, show me one sentence that you wrote. One sentence. And she couldn't show one sentence. So the judge threw it out. Now, mind, it cost quite a bit of money, but they appealed. And I won the appeal too. And I won cost for both. But you know, through the whole process, it's like a big thing. But cost in Canada is not like cost in the US. It's like 10% of what you paid. And she's never paid me either. So yeah, it is what it is. I learned a valuable lesson about, you know, working with people who have good intentions, and working with professionals that really know what they're doing, as opposed to just trying to find an easy way to do it. So the moral of the story is, I didn't know that was going on when I connected to the polar bear. The polar bear knew I was going through something. The 7 shadows that were chasing me through the field were these people. And the polar bear had shown up prior to this whole thing going down. So it was almost like a prophetic thing that happened. But the polar bear knew that I was going to be going through a long, hard and a battle here of some sort. And it went on for like some years, like 2 to 3 years. And because, I mean, court times and everything takes forever. Now, what better medicine to have in life than an animal that has to endure harsh conditions? That is in, you know, the polar bear lives in very harsh conditions up north, often walks alone, and finds a way to get through it all, but it has enormous amounts of strength and energy. So when I was in court, for both times, Hale McClaw spoke to the bear. I had my eagle feather with me as well, because if I was asked to speak, I would speak with truth. And they didn't even call me up to speak anything. And because it was just a farce, just to try to shake me out for some money, but it didn't work out in the end.
What a powerful story. And it goes to show, no matter how gifted you are as a spirit talker. All of us go through adversity of some kind. But if you can witness and notice the support we have around us, it's unbelievable. That's just an incredible story. And what a protector this polar bear has been for you.
So I now actually have a polar bear claw tattooed on my chest.
I would too.
Because I feel so deeply connected to this great animal.
It's
But
beautiful.
it helped me through that time. But I know that if I ever go through another tough time, that is going to be a struggle. And I'll face some. We all do. You're going to face situations. I'll call in my ancestors, and our ancestors include the animal nation, our totem animal.
It's so beautiful. Can I share a very quick story with you,
Sure.
Shawn, that
Absolutely.
happened just the other day?
Yeah.
I have this office and I love my office, but when I work, I like to sit in my kitchen. There's a bay window. Our backyard's kind of like a park, lots of trees. It's so beautiful. I see all the birds flying, and I just like being closer, to my backyard, but inside. And the sun was coming through on my laptop, and so I put the shade down because it was reflecting on the computer. Well, and I was going through trying to figure out something that was really complicated for me. And sometimes with technology, I just go, ugh, I just don't like it, but we all need it. And I'm going, I don't know what I'm doing. And I was done. I pull up the shade, and right there, this never happened before. I pull up the shade, and we have a deck and a railing. On that railing was a hawk that was sitting there staring at me. But when I pulled the shade up, it flew away. And I went, oh, no, 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 no. I know there's a message. I knew there had to be a message for me. I went outside. I was devastated because it went away. I actually was kind of heartbroken. So I stood outside, and it came back, and it was in a tree very close to me. And we stared at each other for 10 minutes. And I looked at it, I said, please, please tell me, what do you want? What are you trying to tell me? Shawn, I couldn't. I knew it was magical. I knew it was mystical. I knew it was important, and it was very comforting. I can tell you that. And I felt connected immediately with that hawk. But I mean, that's as far as that went. And it was magical to me. And I'm thinking, are you a totem spirit animal? I don't know. I'm figuring all that out.
Mm-hmm. Okay. So what do you feel like it means?
To me, I mean, there's a wisdom. I look in the eyes, and there's so much wisdom, and there's so much strength, and they can see so far. And that I just felt like, you're okay. You're doing great. You're on the right track. We're here. The animal nation is here with you. All my relations, you say, I say it now every day.
Right.
All my relations.
Yes. All my relations.
I felt, I don't know, sometimes I feel a stronger affinity to the animals than I do to people. Yeah. So I felt honored. I felt honored. Yeah.
I feel like the hawk, I mean, was it a red-tailed hawk, or do you know?
It was a Cooper hawk.
A Cooper hawk. Okay. I would say that it bridges, it helps you realize that you're connected between the physical and the spirit worlds, or the physical and higher realms of energy, because they fly very high in the sky as well, very much like eagles, very similar medicine sensei. But I feel like obviously spirit's trying to get your attention. And I think that you were meant to see that. So it's about, I think they're trying to awaken your vision and your awareness and connection to all those things. And I think that's really what that meant for you. And it's about, who this person are. And I think that the hawk supports this journey that you're on, and to help you have insight and greater vision and awareness about things.
Yeah, it's beautiful. It comforted me. It was magical, and it just makes life so much more interesting when you take time to notice and stop and look and take in whatever medicine is being presented to you.
Right. And sometimes when a totem comes to you, it's like that, it's something unique that you've never seen before that has shown up to get your attention. and then what happen? It'll repeat somewhere in some unique way. It'll happen again down the road, some other unique, special way, and you'll be like, okay. And then you have to say, what am I going through right now? Is there something that I need to have higher insight or higher vision for at this time? And then that's why they're showing up, to remind you that you can ask them to kind of help and guide you with all that.
And I do now. I do now. I do ask if I have something I do, and I'll go outside and I've had several things happen with eagles too. So, and gifting me feathers. And so I have something, I do have a connection to the bird world because crows leave me gifts. And when I come outside, they just all kind of come around me. And hummingbirds, eat out of my hand. And so there's something, I do have a connection with birds for sure. Yeah. An eagle, on my birthday several years ago, we had white Adirondack chairs outside, and I was sitting outside, and my husband had given me binoculars for my birthday, which was such a great gift because I love looking at the animals. I went inside, it took 1 minute. It didn't take longer. I came out, there was an eagle tail feather at the base of the chair, the white against the white. And I was so confused. I thought somebody put it there. For that to have happened, Shawn, that was almost impossible for that to have happened in that minute. And that was real medicine for me.
Well, all things are possible with spirit.
Yeah,
all things are possible with spirit. And, and when you become more connected, more aware of your connections, you start to notice, the synchronicities or things like that, the signs that come to you to remind you that all things are possible. And, that's when you start on a journey like this, that it just, it's empowering because it really gives you the knowledge and wisdom to know that they are with you, that your ancestors, including, your spirit guides, your angels, the animal totems, Mother Earth, grandfather, son, that all of nature and all of that is around us is supporting us. And we're connected to it all. And because we're codependent on each other so greatly that we have to support each other. And it's not just like, food and sustenance, but it's like spirit and energy and balance, because they need us too. I mean, you can't have a world that is without one. Well, you can't have a world that is without one of these things. If you have all the creatures in the sea, if you were to remove them or they were all to die, we would all go extinct. And same with all the land animals and the creatures that crawl within the earth or that fly within the sky. We're very codependent on each other. So there's one of the things that I wrote about in the book that maybe people maybe not have heard of, but the white buffalo calf woman prophecy.
Yes.
And it's an amazing prophecy where, white buffalo calf woman had come to the Dakota people and brought them back the wisdom of like ceremony and balance. And gave them a pipe to have that integral balance and respect between all things in nature and life and such. And then she disappeared and she turned into a white buffalo and went on to the spirit world. And she said, well, when I come back, I'm giving you a prophecy. When I return as the white buffalo, you'll know that we have to pay extra special attention to that balance again of life. And while I was filming Spirit Talker, which is a TV show in Canada, season 4, I went to Sioux Valley Dakota Nation in Manitoba. I believe this is where it is. And they had a whole herd of buffalo. And they had 16 white buffalo. I mean, I don't know if there's another community of buffalo in the world that has that many white buffaloes. And, I connected to the white buffalo. And the buffalo connected to me and was imparting wisdom. And I felt like it was white buffalo calf woman to some degree, embodying these white buffalo. And the elder there, Tony Tucan, asked me to make an offering and pray for his people and pray for the buffalo. And so I did. I picked a blue prayer tie. I tied it to the fence, put some tobacco in it. And I sat there and the white buffalo come over and put his head on my tie. And he looked at me and stared me in the eyes. And for a moment, it was just like we were one. And he was like telling me about this prophecy again and how important it is to remind people that we're all connected. And that was what he represents, or she or they represent in life. And so it was just amazing. And, and this is where kind of things connect for me because, for me, my totem animals are on the book. These are my four totems. And yours don't have to be these ones. Like yours could be the hawk or, the hummingbird, etc. For whatever reason, I'm seeing a caterpillar for you too. So a caterpillar is a connection for you because it has to be about transformation. So watch for the caterpillars, and there's a message there, and I would look that up. And I mean, caterpillars connected to butterflies too, so you are connected to many flying things. But they offer different medicines of understanding. Um, and you could be from anywhere in the U.S. You could be from Europe. You could be from China. You could be from Japan. It doesn't matter. I don't have polar bears here, even though they're like thousands of miles away up north. Hence I'm still have a connection. You may have a connection to llamas or something like that from India. Who knows? Or elephants in Africa. And it doesn't have to be animals that are from your rural area from where you live. It could be animals for outside of that. And I think
could it be an animal that came with you from past lives?
Yes, absolutely. I feel like we have past life connections to some of these animals as well, because I feel like we're all connected, and I think that we have crossed paths in many lifetimes in different ways, and we're all in a journey of evolution, even the animal nation, right? And absolutely past lives. I feel like even some of the cats and dogs that I have, I've lived with before.
Yeah.
I feel like they're the same spirit that I've had in other parts of my life. Like I feel like they've come back to me for a short time.
That's so beautiful. Can you share with us the 7 grandfather teachings?
Okay, well, the 7 grandfather teachings, I do, I also have an oracle card deck, Wisdom of the Elder, but in my Walking with the Spirit Totem Animals, because I could not embody in a book all the animals of the world talking about all the medicines. So I wanted to honor my culture as an Indigenous person, and we have what you call the 7 grandfather teachings. And the 7 grandfather teachings are, there's examples of these grandfather teachings that rely on 7 different animals, and they embody certain traits and qualities, or we'll say essences or spiritual medicines that help us to remember these and that we can work with them, even if they're not your totems. So the first, and I've also put in my Wisdom and Elders Oracle card deck, which I see is sold out everywhere online for whatever reason right now, but maybe it's because the book came out. Yeah. But the first medicine, I'll hold them up to you. The first medicine is the wolf. And he offers humility and to be humble in life, and because they have to watch out for their whole tribe, and there's always a strong wolf that will kind of step up and lead the pack, but he won't be the one that leads the pack for all of his life. There'll be a point that he needs to step down, and he has to have the humility to know when he needs to lead and not lead, and help and protect and etc. They work together as a family, very family oriented wolves. Now the second grandfather teaching is the turtle, which it represents in the grandfather teachings truth. And what better animal to embody truth than a turtle? Because they've been on Mother Earth for over 200 million years. And maybe some people don't know this, but the turtle on their back, literally, has time embedded on it. So if you look at the shell of a turtle, because in Indigenous culture, and according to the turtles too, not just Indigenous culture, but we before colonization, let's say, and when we start to have 12 months of the year, we as Indigenous people knew we had 13 moons, which is true. In a year, there's 13 moons, and between the moons, there's 28 days, which, women in the world are very deeply connected to that moon time, because your cycles are connected to it. You're the water carriers of life in the world as well. So your physical connection to Mother Earth and the synchronicity of all things are aligned. You know what I mean? And same with the turtle. If you look at the turtle's back, around the back of the turtle are 28 markings. And within the middle of the turtle are 13 markings, representing the 13 moons and the 28 days. So how is it that they've, did they decide to do this themselves, or did the creator embody this like naturally within them, and carry. And if you ever meet a turtle, which I've had many times, and in Hawaii and Aruba, and in different places, but I go out and swim with the turtles. What peaceful creatures!
Oh.
What a presence they have. I can literally swim right up beside them and they'll just stare at me, and they're so chill, so calm, so relaxed. And they come up for a breath and they'll look at you and go back down and chew on some more grass. And, they pay no mind to me because I'm not a shark. So they realize I'm not a predator, that I'm part of their family and such. But they just have such a good medicine of like, taking time and presence and mindfulness and peace and, and things that deal with time too, you can call upon. Now, the medicine also that is deeply connected to me is bear, and it represents bravery. So when you're facing things in life where you have to be brave to face a situation, then it's good to call upon the bear, the medicine, to kind of help you face these problems. Because a bear is ferocious and will stand their ground, especially when it deals with their family, especially a mother bear, if with cubs, would die for her cubs, literally, protecting them. So there might be an issue with your children that your kids are going through, and you being a mother, you could call upon bear medicine to kind of help you face this, to be brave, to not back down, to speak what needs to be said, etc. Now, the fourth
can I just ask?
Sure.
So if that is not our totem, we can still ask for help, call upon him. Okay.
Yeah, absolutely. So that's why I included these, because, in Indigenous teaching, we have the 7 grandfather teachings, but not all these are my totems, and they're not all Indigenous people's totems. There are aspects of medicine that we can call upon if we need to, like saints of sorts in a way.
Exactly.
We don't have saints. What we do is we call upon the wisdom of our ancestors, which are animals too, our ancestors. They've walked on Mother Earth long before we have. So they are ancestors. They've come here before us. Now, the fourth 7 of the grandfather teachings is the eagle. And it's a medicine that carries love. And there's a big heart on the eagle. And the reason is because they fly above all the storms, and they're the first to receive the Creator's first sacred light, because, grandfather sun shines the light upon them first, because they fly closer to the sun than we do. And, when there is a problem that arises, they can just avoid it, there's this kind of story in Indigenous teaching. I don't remember how it really goes exactly, but, crows sometimes will attack the eagles because they're predators. So they and they're very family orientated. So anyway, the eagle doesn't panic. The eagle doesn't go, okay, well, I'm going to kill the crow. Well, the crow will be on his back picking at the eagle, and the eagle will just fly higher and higher and higher until the crow can no longer be on his back, because the crow cannot fly as high as the eagle. So he just rises above the situation, higher than the problems that he may be surrounded by. So that's another one you can call on. The fifth medicine is respect, and buffalo, or the bison. And, why we say respect is because they literally, to Indigenous people, have given they've given every part of themselves to sustain us, from their furs to build their teepees, to clothing, to all their bones for tools, their flesh for food and sustenance. But we also knew that we had to respect them. And that's why today, with the Sioux Valley Dakota Nation, they have a herd of buffalo, because they provided, and they nearly went extinct, and we're sustaining them, in a space, in different communities all across different Indigenous communities around the world, etc. And so, because we know they were life givers to us, now we give them life. We provide a space for them to be and live, because they have purpose as well. And they're very strong animals, and so we know that they teach us respect about the balance of all things. Okay. Number 6, wisdom, the beaver, which is, and a lot of people might not think a beaver is that wise. But you think about when a beaver goes into a space to create a home, it changes literally the whole ecosystem of the location from which they build. And they not only change it for themselves, but all the fish and other animals that go there to drink, to swim, to eat if need be at the water's edge, and They literally change the ecosystem where they are. And they're super intelligent, even when it comes to like taking down trees. If you ever watch a beaver, and I watched a documentary on them, but they'll actually chew a tree, and they'll know when they're getting close to it falling over. They'll take 2 little chews, stop, and listen. And if they hear it cracking, they know that they can't chew anymore. So they'll move away and let it do what it needs to do and to fall down. And then they use that wood to create their home and, the sustainable environment from which they are. But they're very intelligent. I mean, that genetically had to be, developed within them over time, of course, right? And the last teaching is 7, which is Sabe, and some people may know as Bigfoot. Right? We in Indigenous people, we have very deeply connected to Sabe or Bigfoot because on season 4 of Spirit Talker, I went out to a community in Western Canada called Sta'anis. And their whole emblem for their community and their tribe is Bigfoot. And they actually have a place that goes through their community called the Bigfoot Trail. And they have ceremonies, and they make offerings to Bigfoot and Sasquatch, and they have pictographs in the woods that nobody knows about that are predate colonization, depicting Bigfoot, and they're protected by their community and their people. And I feel Bigfoot was and is an interdimensional being.
Yeah.
Just like we can be sometimes. We've walked upon Mother Earth, right, for a long time. And when we leave our body, the physical body, do people see spirits sometimes in form that disappear? Yes, absolutely. They could call him a ghost or a spirit, etc. But Sabe gets seen every now and then because his spirit is very deeply connected to Mother Earth. But the medicine that Sabe or Bigfoot offers is honesty, because he is so different. And he has to be authentic. And so if you're struggling with authenticity, if you're struggling with being honest with who you truly are in life, then you could call upon Bigfoot to kind of help you to embody that for yourself. Because to accept yourself as you are, to be all that you can be, no matter how different that you appear to other people. So I actually have a Bigfoot hoodie, a Bigfoot socks. And a lot of the times when I'm doing my events, I'm wearing my Bigfoot socks. Nobody knows, but it's because I'm different than a lot of people in regards to my connection, and I represent that I'm out there, sharing that connection, and I have to be honest with who I am, and as a spirit having a human experience, and that it's okay to be different than other people's understandings, because I do face people sometimes that are skeptical or uncertain, and what better medicine to walk with me or actually have in my shoes on my feet is the medicine of Bigfoot. So those are the 7 grandfather teachings. Now,
you said something in the book, and I can't remember which animal it was, but you related it to professions. So are there certain professions that you see seem to be in alignment with those 7 different?
I don't know. So what do you mean professions exactly?
You said something
one of the
there.
Animals?
If you said something in the book, and I can't remember, that you'd see an accountant would probably have, this is their totem, but
an accountant. I don't remember that part.
And it might not have been an accountant, so you can.
Yes, I'm not sure, but I would say you can embody all these medicines, in the area of your life, and it could help you with your work, etc., and all that. But I mean, maybe the beaver, because of wisdom, if you're an accountant, you probably have a great deal of wisdom, and the integral things that you do, kind of like support the whole, right, in some way. So it might seem menial, or not as important, like an accountant maybe feels like sometimes, but you're helping to support people's financial well-being and such like. So I would say probably the beaver's wisdom is probably best for that.
When you realized your 4 totem, how did that change you?
Well, it was like an epiphany to me, because nobody said, Shawn, growing up as an Indigenous person, nobody said, Shawn, okay, I knew that I had what we call clans. Because in Indigenous people, we didn't have last names way back in the day. So I knew I was from the Bear clan. And the reason for having a clan was so that you didn't marry your cousin. So if I was Shawn of the Bear Clan, you didn't hook up with Mary of the Bear Clan too. You hooked up with, Mary of the Moose Clan or something like that, So, and then we knew that that we had to kind of do that to kind of like, so that clan or that family name type, let's say, um, you know, we had to kind of like help each other out, but we're all from the same clan, right? But nobody said, Shawn, we have 4 tournaments in life. It was when they start to reveal themselves to me through life that I realized that there was 4. And then and it was like Spirit was telling me, well, there's 4 stages of life. So of course you may have at least 1, if not maybe even potentially 2 in every stage of life. I say we have at least 4 animals. But you could have up to 8, I believe, because there are spirit totem animals and there's power totem animals. Now, spirit animals are ones that help you spiritually, guide your spiritual ways of life. And like the polar bear, I feel is like a power totem for me. So when I'm struggling or need his power, his strength, his courage, his bravery, then I will call him to face something. So I'm utilizing his power to face a situation like. But it was something that came to me when they start to come to me that we have at least 4. And it wasn't until, because I'm 53 now.
Oh, you're a baby. You're just a puppy.
I know. Everybody's been telling me that my whole life. And by the way, I love it. Because I love feeling young, although my body says, you keep saying that, but you're getting older, buddy. But, in Indigenous culture, being an elder or elderly is usually not till the age of 55. And it's something that is bestowed upon you by the community itself. So you can't just say, well, hey, I'm an elder. I may be in my elder years, but not necessarily an elder. It was one of the last medicine that I feel like has come to me now or helping me be aware of who and what it was the white owl. And it's repeatedly showed up in my life. I've been gifted owl feathers. I even have owl feathers that have not used, but I don't feel like I'll use them yet until I move into my elder years of life. But it was an elder that I met named Danny Paul, who passed away and brought the owl to me again. And when I realized he passed away, he was like, because he was an elder. And it was a man that I confided with in a very particular dream that I had about eagles. And it had nothing to do with owls. But it was on Christmas Eve a few years ago. And I was going for Christmas Eve dinner with my wife at her family's house, which we do every year. And an owl was on a telephone wire that is lower than all the telephone wires, like just sags right down. For whatever reason, this one, and the owl was on it. So I drove up and I got out of my truck and I talked to the owl. And he kept just staring me in the eyes. And I knew the owl was imparting something with me. And I didn't quite know, but I was telling Michelle, I said, he has a message for me. I'm not sure what it is yet, but I know he's telling me something. And I feel this kind of elder wisdom from him. So we had our dinner, we come home, and then I went on Facebook and I was going to go ask Danny Paul, the elder that I talked about, the eagle dream that I had, that is in the book, which is a phenomenal dream too. So I went to message him and I realized he had died. Danny Paul had died. And it dawned upon me that he's one of my ancestors. He's an elder with the Mi'kmaq community, and he had a lot of wisdom. And I feel like he'd probably work with me as maybe a spiritual guide or people in my later stages connecting to my heritage and culture. But he brought me the owl because he was bringing me a message and a messenger. And I thought about all the owls that have come to me through life and the medicine that I have. And I'm like, I believe because he was an elder and, he was gifting me the knowledge of who my 4th totem was, gifting me the message that he made his journey. And that's why I felt the elder wisdom from him, and that he'll be guiding me, but also the owl will be too.
It's so beautiful. So for people to connect with their totem spirit animals, would be the best thing to do? Is it just be present and notice what's around you?
Right. Well, there's a lot of good tips in the book. So I would say, the book could kind of enlighten you to kind of like a many ideas. There's a questionnaire in there. There's a couple exercises and meditations, a lot of prayers in relation to all the seven grandfathers that you can call upon each one. But if I was to give you kind of a direction, and if you do buy the book, just so you know, if you go to my website, shawn-leonard.com, and you know your receipt number, your order number, you go to the Walking with Your Spirit Totem Animals tab. There's a space there you can enter your receipt or order number. And as soon as you do that and you put in your email address, you're going to get sent a meditation that I've recorded to connect to your spirit totem animal, an intentional, prayerful words that you can speak to invite the animals to connect to you. I did an hour, over an hour, I think it was an hour and 11-minute teaching the other day that you'll also get because you've just bought the book. So there's some assets there that will help you make connections. But outside of that, I would say have a personal ceremony, like how I connected to the bear, and make an offering. And then, Indigenous people, we typically would use tobacco and make an offering of tobacco in regards to, because we know that the spirit world everything is reciprocal in life. What you give comes back to you. So give something that's important to you spiritually in some unique way. And I'm not saying to use tobacco because that's, cultural appropriation in some sense of like connection. But go get something of the earth, like a sacred medicine that is connected to your own nation of people. Go get a crystal or a rock or something, and then speak to it and hold it over your heart and just ask and ask the animal nation to reveal to you who your totems are, to come to you in unique ways like a dream or just repeatedly show up in your life. You speak to it, you pray to it, and then you offer it. You leave it in your sacred space out in the forest or the woods or the trees, the park, what have you. And you're making the offering in exchange for them to hear your words, but also to reciprocate and let you know who they are. And they will reveal themselves to you. Meditations and prayers and things can help, but the ceremony is the most important.
I did get your meditation. I got all the things that you just mentioned, and the meditation is absolutely fantastic. So I highly recommend people get that. Shawn, where did this time go? I still, well, I do have some questions. So, I normally ask questions at the end of, but these are new because you've already answered my other questions from the other interview. So I'm going to ask you a couple questions now related to this. I do want to say another quote from the book I love. When you walk with your spirit totem, you walk in the places where the visible and invisible meet. And that's so powerful to me. I love that. First question, in your experience, what is the most misunderstood teaching when it comes to spirit totem animals? And what truth do you wish more people knew?
I would say that the greatest misunderstanding is that these are your ancestors. When you think of the people in the spirit world that are with you, helping you, guiding you, the animal nation are also your ancestors. To remember them, we bring them into our home, our family, our pet and fur family, maybe our fish family, who knows? But they are our ancestors. We've walked on earth with them in this lifetime and many lifetimes, and we have deep connections with them for multitudes of reasons. But there's a balance between all things and all of in nature. And so I would say, remember that you and the animals are connected.
Beautiful. If someone never receives a clear totem animal vision, how can they still walk in right relationship with the animal nation?
Well, I would say whatever you feel you align with in regards to animals, let's just say if you don't really get a really clear validation, which I feel that they will happen eventually. They do. You maybe not got one yet. It took like months for the polar bear claw to come near me, but I didn't know I was going to even have the dream of the polar bear. And look how long I've lived. I was like in my 40s before the polar bear connected to me. But it wasn't meant to connect to me till then. There's, again, different stages of life. So don't panic if you don't know them all just yet. But I would say work with the animals that you feel drawn to, that you feel aligned to, and speak to them and have ceremonial words or things you can speak to call upon them. Look up the medicines of the animal that you feel drawn to, and you'll know why you're drawn to them. And then when you face situations, or do you need to embody the essence of their spirit and medicine, then speak to them and invite them and make an offering and ask them to walk with you at this time.
Beautiful. What animals are showing up now as messengers for humanity, and what must we remember?
I'm going to say the orcas are big messengers in the world right now. They, especially in the European nation, have been attacking boats. So there's whales that will beach themselves sometimes. I feel like they come with messages. And sometimes when we see an animal that is sick in the water, or there's like because of pollution or something like this, then they're messengers to show us that we need to take better care of our environment. I mean, the whales, I feel like, are literally, the orcas are attacking boats to say, okay, you have to respect our space. And they communicate amongst each other. So they're not taking the lives of people. They're just taking the rudders off boats, because I think they're trying to say, you go through the waters like there's no one else there but yourself. It's your ego. You remember that we're part of this world too, to respect us, to honor us. And I think, and I would just put this out there, if there's anybody in a situation with their worker out in the world, not in Canada, because the workers aren't doing anything like that in Canada. It's just over in Europe. So there must be something they're doing to the water. There must be something they're doing to the environment that the orcas feel like they have to get humanity's attention. So they will do things like that. So I would say some of those animals are pretty key.
Wow. Well, Shawn, thank you so, so much for being here and talking about this incredible book. Here it is again. Can't see it. Here, walking with your spirit totem animals. I just feel it's a must read. I actually think both your books are a must read. Where can people find you?
Well, if you go to my website, Shawn, SHAWN, hyphen the middle line, Leonard, LEONARD.com. All my books, my Oracle card deck, there's links there. You can submit your receipt or order numbers and get the free gifts for all the books that I still have there, and free teachings, etc. So you can find me there, find out where I am, where Spirit Talker is out in the world, and where I'm touring, etc. So that's the place to be.
And we'll put all that in show notes so everybody will see that. But Shawn, I thank you so much for coming back on Fear Unzipped. And I guess you're going to be on again for the next book.
I would love to be on for the next book.
Whatever the next book is.
I don't know what it's called yet because I'm working on it, but I have a premise for it. I'll give you a hint of it. I put it out there that I would like to call it Grandfather's Son, because we feel that's the first. Everything is, we're all stardust. Everything in the universe is created from stardust. Literally everything. And there are ancestors too. That's why we say Grandfather's Son, because we see them as an ancestor, right? Grandmother Moon, Mother Earth. There's a connection. But we've started as stardust. But, understanding who we are and that first sacred light, that it exists within our solar system, but exists in all solar systems and out in the universe, which create light itself. We are co-creating our lives. And so my next one is called Grandfather Son, I believe, and the 7 directions of manifestation. Mm-hmm. So I'm going to talk about 7 directions, because in Indigenous culture, we have 4 directional teachings, but we also have 7 directional teachings. And I'm going to embody that with a way to co-create your life.
Wow. Well, I can't wait. Can't wait. Shawn, thank you so much for being here. It has been a true delight when we're talking about something that's really near and dear to my heart. So I so appreciate it.
Well, thank you so much for having me on, Sandi. I really appreciate being on your show. You're an amazing host, and I just love your energy, and that's why everybody's watching you, is because you're such a great person, and you're sharing new thoughts and spiritual principles out in the world. So I appreciate you. I thank you, and I look forward to seeing you again.
Thank you, Shawn. You're going to make me cry. That was so sweet. Thank you. Okay, until next time.
Until next
time.